So in this video we're doing a topic which some people find really difficult, and it's working out whether you need to use trigonometry, so SOHCAHTOA, or Pythagoras. Now in this video we are just focusing on those two. We won't be focusing on the harder stuff, the higher stuff like sine rule and cosine rule. That will be in a separate video. So to help you out, I've done this little flow diagram. I do like my colours, surprisingly. So you go through these, you follow which pattern it goes in just at the moment so you get used to them, and then eventually you'll be able to just know which one you need to be using, whether it's Pythagoras or SOHCAHTOA. So to start off with, the first thing you need to check is if it's a right angle, especially if you're doing a higher paper in maths. If you aren't, then you don't really need to worry about this too much because you're not going to have to face sine rule or cosine rule. But that is the first thing you need to do. If the answer is no, that means it will be one of those harder topics, okay? If it does, we go on to the next bit. So are there another angles which isn't the right angle one? Okay, if so, that tells me straight away that it's going to be the SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so if there's an angle there as well as the right angle one, it's going to be SOHCAHTOA. Okay, if there isn't, we go down to the next one. So are you looking for an angle? Again, if the answer is yes, you're going to be using SOHCAHTOA. If the answer is no, it's going to be Pythagoras. So if you don't want to use this little flow chart, the ways to remember is, if you aren't looking for an angle, and if there isn't an angle in the question, it will always be Pythagoras, okay? Because that only deals with lengths on the sides of the triangles, okay? Whereas SOHCAHTOA, you've got to either use one of the angles and a side to work out another side, or you've got two sides that you can then use to work out the angle, okay? So I'm just going to move it down a little bit just so you can see the examples. So what I'll do is I'll keep going up and down. So we'll start with the first one. So firstly, it has a right angle, yes, so it means it is going to be Pythagoras or SOHCAHTOA. Okay, the second bit, is there an angle as well as the right angle? Yes, there is, so that means this is going to be SOHCAHTOA. Okay, SOHCAHTOA. So once we know that, we can then obviously do what we need to do. So first thing with these questions, we've got to label it. So we've got the angle of 30, the side opposite is this one, so this is going to be opposite side. Okay, the side with the two angles on it, so the right angle and the 30, that's the adjacent, and the longest side is the hypotenuse. Okay, now there isn't anything on the adjacent and we don't need to use it, so I've crossed it out and we're just focusing on the opposite and hypotenuse, which means that it's going to be the sine. Okay, so if you can't remember the formula, it's sine of the angle, so sine of x is opposite divided by hypotenuse. So we're going to put the values in. So just make sure that this x isn't the same as that one. This x represents the angle, so it would be sine of 30 equals the opposite, which is x, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 10. Okay, so at the moment the x is being divided by the 10, so that means we need to multiply by 10 so that we just have x on its own, which means I need to multiply by 10 on this side as well. So 10 times sine of 30. Okay, and you can use a calculator, but I'm pretty sure it is 5 anyway, but I will check. 5 centimetres. 10 times sine of 30. Yeah. Okay, so x is 5. Okay, for the next one then. So first thing, does it have a right angle? Yes, it does. That's good. Number 2, does it have another angle that isn't the right angle? No, it doesn't. So that means we carry on to the next bit. Are we looking for an angle? No, we're looking for the side y. So this tells me straight away that we must be using Pythagoras. Okay, so Pythagoras, a recap, is the formula a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So again, we still need to label, but just slightly different. So c is the longest, which is opposite the right angle. So I've given you a trick before where you just draw an arrow from there, and the side that it points to is your c. Okay, a and b are the other two. It doesn't matter which way round they are, it's just I like to have the a on the bottom. and then we sub it in. So A is 2, B is y, C is 5, okay? And then we just simplify it. So 2 squared is 4, plus y squared is equal to 25. Now the numbers aren't on the same side, so we need to subtract 4 from both sides first, so that we end up just having y squared on its own. So y squared equals 21, and then we square root it. So y equals the square root of 21, which is 4.6 to 1 decimal place. 4.6 centimetres. Okay. And for the last one, again, just go through the steps. So 1, is there a right angle? Yes, good. So that means we can go to the next bit. Okay, I'll break it down here because we can just about get both of them. Okay, is there an angle as well as the right angle? No, there isn't, so we carry on. Are we looking for an angle? Yes, we are. We're trying to find x, which is the angle there, which means that we're going to be using SOHCAHTOA. Let's do it in red. SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so we're going to start off with labelling it. So opposite side is here. The side with the 2 angles is the adjacent. The longest side is the hypotenuse. So there's nothing on the opposite, and we're not looking for the opposite, so I've crossed that out. So we've got the adjacent and the hypotenuse, which is going to be cos. Okay, so the formula for cos is cos of the angle is the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. So if we sub it in, cos of x, this will still be an x because we're looking for that, is equal to the adjacent, which is 7, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 10. Now, to get x on its own, rather than having the cos with it, okay, we've got to do the reverse. So cos to the minus 1 of 7 over 10. Okay, so to do that, we click shift and then the cos, and then you should have cos to the minus 1 like that. And then you can put in 7 divided by 10. Okay, which is 45.6 degrees. Okay, so the final thing we're going to do is a question where they sometimes involve both of them. Okay, so we're given the diagram. What it's asking us to do is find the length of BC. So I'm just going to add an X there, just because that's the side that we're looking for here. So we're going to start off with the left-hand triangle, because if we can work out this height, okay, so BD, we've then got the 2 sides to then use Pythagoras to be able to then work out the X, okay. Now, just focusing on the left one, okay, I'm going to call it number 1. Okay, to work out that length, so again, we're going to go through the rules. So I'm just going to scroll it down. So does it have a right angle? Yes, it does. That's good. Is there another angle in the diagram in that triangle? Yes, there is. There's the 49, so it's going to be SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so then we can label it. So this side is the opposite. This side has both the angles on, so that's going to be the adjacent, and this must then be the hypotenuse. The adjacent doesn't have anything on it, and we're not looking for it, so I'm going to cross it out, and I'm just going to call this y, because that's the side that we're looking for, so then we can use it to then work out what x is. So we are going to be using the opposite and the hypotenuse, so that's going to be the sine. Okay, so sine x is the opposite divided by the hypotenuse, and we just sub it in. So sine of the angle, so sine 49, is equal to the opposite, which is what we're looking for, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 5. Okay, so because the y is being divided by 5 at the moment, we do the opposite, we multiply by 5. So we have 5 sine 49 is equal to y, and then we just type that into a calculator. So 5 sine 49, and we get that. So I'm going to write that as 3.8. 3.8 no, meters. Okay, so just make sure you get the units right as well. So we've now worked out that this height here is 3.8 meters. Okay, so now we can just focus on the right hand triangle. So I'm going to call that number 2, and it's in green. Okay, so this one we've got 2 sides. So does it have a right angle? Yes, it does. Does it have another angle? No, it doesn't. Are you looking for an angle? No, so that means we are going to be using Pythagoras, like what I said previously. Again, write the formula out just so you get used to writing it. Okay, and then it'll be in your brain fresh when you do the exams. So we need to label it. So going across from the right angle, that must be your C. A and B, it doesn't matter which way around you've got them. So A is 4.5 squared, B is 3.8 squared, and C is x squared. Okay, now just a hint for the 3.8. Now when we did it on a calculator, it didn't give us exactly 3.8. So make sure you leave it on your calculator, the amount that you've got, and just click answer squared, because then it will actually square the exact number that you had rather than the rounded answer that you wrote down. So it's going to be 14.2, and again I'm not going to erase it, I'm just going to leave it as it is. 14.2. okay, 4.5 squared, 20.25. okay. And again, I'm going to keep that answer, so I'm just going to quickly rewrite it. So I know it's effort, but it's just like I like to keep all the answers all accurate. So squared is that. So plus the 20.25 from this part here. So them added together is 34.49. I should have written it as 0.5, but hey ho. Okay, and then we square root the answer at the end. So square root answer. So it's going to be 5.9 meters. Okay. Now, if you did round it at some point, if you did leave it as 3.8, you probably would still get an answer of 5.9. It's just I'm quite picky and I like to keep the exact answer the whole way through. Okay, but they're how you do the mixed ones of SOHCAHTOA and trigonometry. No, SOHCAHTOA and Pythagoras, but also knowing which one to use.